Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 782. All right, well, as I guess, let me just say this. I have been inspired by this show. Now, I have been inspired by this show many, many times, but I will tell you that I had a new inspiration come over me just last week. And it's something I wanted to talk about here on the show because it seemed like while I get inspired all the time by guests and learning what people are doing, I guess something bigger than that kind of came over me. And that was that I have always thought, in my mind, this show, since I created it, has always been about farming. And, farming, ranching, the whole lifestyle, and helping people to do that. And that has not changed at all. But it's funny, after some time, something you're doing, you realize that it's about maybe something different, or maybe it's about something in addition to what you wanted it to be about, and you didn't realize it all the time. As you were going through, it was there all the time, but you didn't realize it, or I don't know. It's one of those things that kind of sneaks up on you. And I had this realization when I was recording episode number 780. This was Dan Frank, who came on out of, southwest Minnesota? No, southwest Wisconsin. And he was talking about how he had got started with his silage hauling business and where he was taking that. And there were so many things that he said in that interview that I really, really liked. Namely, one of them was that right now well, I say right now, when we interviewed this, it was safe to say this. As I'm reading the news this morning about an oil crisis and, of course, the coronavirus thing going on and all of this, is it safe to say that we've got this great economy right now? I hope it is. I hope it continues, and I hope this is a little bump in the road that we all forget about in a week or two. But a correction has been coming for some time, and is this it? Maybe so. You just never know where these things are going to come from. This random virus and this oil thing between Saudi Arabia and Russia. And I know nothing about it. I just know that it's causing panic in the stock market. Anyway, when we were recording this, he was making note of the fact that the economy is or has been so strong and unemployment is so low, so extremely low, that people who need to hire help on farms and in areas around farm country, they can't find anybody. And so it's very easy to find work, and it's easy to get paid well because it is a seller's market when it comes to labor in these areas right now. And what I like so much about that interview when we were talking is that he did not take this for granted. He did not go, hey man, it is, it's good times out here. I'm making good money, and I'm having good times, and I'm buying jet skis, and I'm buying blah, blah, blah. No, what he was doing was he was realizing that this is rare, this is unprecedented, and that it's not always going to stay this way. So right now I'm taking advantage of all this work that's available to me, and I am building my business. And he was doing several things to build his business. First thing was he was bootstrapping it, so he started with really old equipment, and he was making that work. The next thing he was doing is that he was building a network or a consortium or a federation of people that have the same businesses as him, and they could all pull together, and therefore they could get the bigger jobs that were out there, and they wouldn't necessarily be outcompeted by a company that, say, had 5 trucks. They could put together 5 independent owner-operators, but they could all work on one job together, and so they could all still get work. They wouldn't lose out on that work. And I thought that was really insightful. And then, on top of all of that, he was sitting there going, now I've made enough that I'm going to reinvest into better equipment that can do more work, and therefore I can extend my business into, a longer period of time during the year where I can be independent, self-sufficient. There was a lot I liked about that because I liked the fact that he was looking forward, not just living in the present. I like the fact that he's recognizing that these are really good times in terms of unemployment and the ability to get work, but I'm not going to take that for granted because it doesn't always stay this way. And so he's doing everything he can to set himself up for when the day comes that unemployment goes back up, that the economy slows down, he has a business that people still need to hire. Meaning it doesn't matter how bad the economy it is or how bad unemployment is. A farmer still needs to get chopped corn and silage out of their field. They still need their commodities hauled and taken to market. And there's a subset of farmers who don't have the equipment to do that themselves, and they have no option. They need to get that out of the field. Otherwise, they can't make a living. So he's recognized this. He's building a business that cannot be outsourced. He's building a business that even if the economy is bad, people are still going to continue to need this service, and therefore there will still continue to be a demand for what he is offering. And if unemployment goes way up and it's not so easy to find those jobs in farm country, he's still got a way to make a living in farm country and to live in farm country. And I don't even know if he intended it this way, but it was so insightful. It was very inspirational to me because starting this show back in 2014 and doing it with the goal of finding people like Dan who are doing these things that will give people the ability to live this life they want. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you all that it's unfair. I don't think it's unfair. Honestly, I don't think it's unfair that it's harder to live and make it in farm country today than it was 75, 80, 90, 100 years ago. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's unfair. Things change. We progress. I think as a whole, our country generally tries to do what we think is best. It doesn't mean that we're always right, or it doesn't mean that we always picked the best possible answer, the best possible solution. There's just no way to do that. I've too much experience in my life where I have tried to do my best, picked what I thought that was the best solution to a problem, moved forward, and then got down the road with it and went, well, this is what I've got now. And looked back and went, oh, if I'd have done it that way, now that I've got hindsight, if I'd have done it that way, man, this would have worked out better. That's happened to me plenty of times, whether it's been here on our small farm, in business, in policing, even in college, all of that. That's happened to me many, many times. And here I am, I'm 46 years old. I don't think I'm old enough to be wise, but I'm not young enough to have no wisdom. And I can look back and I can see those times, and you just have to accept that. Otherwise, you just beat yourself up your entire life. Well, so I don't look at, I don't think it's unfair, the fact that it's harder to make it in farm country today. It's the way things have gone with the decisions that we have made as a country, as a whole, as a government, whatever that may be. And some of those decisions have been crappy. Some of them have been well-intentioned. Some of them have not been thought out well enough. And some of them seemed like the best solution at the time. And then there were things that came up. There were unintended consequences that came up that have made it more difficult to make it in farm country. So, I mean, we're talking technology, for one, equipment, and all the technology that's come along with equipment, with seed, with chemicals, with GMOs, all of the stuff that makes it less labor intensive to farm has made it more difficult to make it in farm country. And the fact that this has led to people from these areas leaving and going to work and live in the cities has made it more difficult because there's less jobs out there. And it's not great. I want people to find a way, and you all know this, I want people to find a way to be able to live in these areas and live this lifestyle that our forebears did that we value so much. But that's what this show is all about. It's about this challenge of how do we do this? How do we make it happen? Because I personally believe that you should be able to live this lifestyle if you want to. But I believe it's up to you. It's not up to the government to make it happen for you. I think it's up to you. And we're in a new day and age. And I miss the old days. And probably a lot of you do too. But that does not change the reality of the fact that we are in a new day and age, and you have to figure out a way to make this happen. So I guess you take all of this into account. And in my mind, in doing this show, the Off-Farm Income Podcast, and then I have an interview with somebody like Dan who sees it. He goes, yeah, I see it, and I'm not going to stop until I figure out a way that I can live the lifestyle I want in the area that I want. I don't want to go off to the city. I don't want to go off and get a job that pays X amount just to make the mortgage payment in the city and to try and keep up because that's where the work is. I want to find a way to be out here. And I totally get that. And I feel like it's one of the best kept secrets in our country. Living out in farm country, living out in rural areas. I think it is one of the best kept secrets. And I think, if people in the cities really understood the benefits and the pleasure of being in a community and being around nature and wide open spaces and experiencing the weather in the way we do, although sometimes it's horrific, I understand. I think there would be a lot more people that would be trying to figure this out. But with all of this said, as I was doing this interview with Dan, maybe a little bit after I finished the interview with Dan and I was prepping all the stuff to put out the videos and the podcast and all of that, it kind of dawned on me that for 780 episodes, now 782 episodes of this show and everything else I've done in agricultural broadcasting, I've always thought that this show was kind of a celebration of farmers. And we wanted to figure out a way to help people live that lifestyle in a day and age where it's just not the same as it once was. It's certainly not as easy to do, or maybe not even possible to do what our grandparents, maybe our great-grandparents did. And while we long for that life, we've got to come up with other methods. And I always thought this show was about that, about farming. And it is. It is, by the way. But what I realized when I was interviewing Dan and I was putting it all together and I was kind of reflecting back on the 780 episodes of this show I've done, and then I started thinking about what's going on in our economy right now and what's going on in our culture and what's going on in our country. What dawned on me was this show is about people who want to work. And I was really thrilled when that epiphany came over me, the fact that this show is celebrating those of us who want to work. It's not just those of us who want to live in farm country. It's not just those of us who like this lifestyle. No, it's actually more specific than that. This show is celebrating those of us who want to work. And I thought that was so awesome. Now, I have interviewed countless people, countless entrepreneurs in agriculture like Dan, and countless FFA students who are just fired up and doing awesome things. And that's kind of been where this show is focused. Well, it's not kind of. That is where this show is focused. And as I was thinking about this, it all of a sudden dawned on me that everybody involved in being guests on this show, and everybody who is listening to this show, and that's quite a few of you, by the way, so thank you very much for that. Why would you listen to this show if you weren't interested in work? Work is a virtue, right? Work is absolutely a virtue. It is one of those things that, it's talked about in the Bible. Now, it's not I guess it's not talked about everywhere in a negative reference, but obviously in Genesis, to begin, it's talked about in a little bit of a negative reference, right? You're going to have to work for the rest of your life because of your bad decisions. But it's interesting that the way work was kind of cast upon us, if you follow the story of Genesis and Adam and Eve and all of that, how those of us in this arena have taken what is kind of painted as a negative there in the first story ever, and we have said, well, we're going to find a way to love it. I think it's great. I think it says something great about human nature, says something great about this audience and about people in farm country. Now, of course, there's a lot of rural communities in this country where there are people who are not working. They want to have nothing to do with work, and they're sitting around and they're taking government benefits too. And it certainly did not used to be that way. That's been a transition in our rural communities that I don't think is particularly good. And I'm sure wherever you're at, you could point to different places and spots like that. Well, that's fine. Just let that be what it is. But this show right here is about celebrating those who want to work. Hey, everybody, just a quick break from this Tuesday edition and talking about our great sponsors. Speaking of people who want to work, well, of course, Lacrosse Footwear. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. Done right since 1897. Lacrosse Footwear has been making quality boots for hunting, working, tending the land, fighting wars, my goodness, for over a century. So proud to have them as a sponsor. We use the Alpha Range boots right here on our farm every single day. As a matter of fact, since it's daylight savings time when I'm recording this, it's not quite light out yet. So when I'm done recording this episode, I will be putting on my Alpha Range boots and going out to feed and do chores. But anyway, please check them out, everybody. So proud to have them as a sponsor. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. And, of course, Powder River livestock handling equipment. When it's time to work with your large livestock, with your cattle, well, there's just no other brand you want on your farm, on your ranch, other than Powder River. They have been making quality livestock handling equipment for well over 80 years, starting out here in the West with some of the craziest cattle you are ever going to be around. Man, everyone, if you have never worked around range cattle that come in off of the range out here in the West, you should, when you're out here on a vacation, go to a livestock auction and just watch some of the cows that come through the ring, and see what the guys in the ring have to do with some of these cattle. They literally want to eat you. They want to destroy you. They are hard to handle, and Powder River has made equipment for well over 80 years to handle those cows. If they can handle those cattle, they can handle yours, let me assure you. So please let your local farm and ranch retailer know you would like to have Powder River livestock handling equipment in their yard so you can buy the best that's out there as well. You can find them at powderriver.com, everybody. All right, well, let's get back to talking about working. All right, so I mentioned the word virtue and virtuous a moment ago, and I can't say that word without thinking about Benjamin Franklin and his virtues. And I want to run through just a couple of these, not all of them. But if you're not aware of this story, Benjamin Franklin had these 13 virtues that he tried to live up to each and every day. He didn't make it. None of us ever would. But he tried, and that's, we've talked about goal setting in the past, right? You set your goals high. You may not hit those goals, but look what you do achieve when you set your goals high. So let's look at these virtues here for a second. So I'll start with number 3, which is order. Let all your things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. I like that one. It fits in here. Resolution, resolve to perform what you ought, perform without fail what you resolve. Frugality, make no expense but to do good to others or yourself, waste nothing. Industry, lose no time, be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. That's probably the crux of what we're talking about here today. Let's see if there's any others here that I think that should be included. Oh, you could probably include a lot of these other ones if you wanted to make the accent or the argument, but I'm not going to right now. But anyway, whenever I hear the word virtues, I think of Ben Franklin, and I think of these virtues. And it's very interesting what this show is. And I can't thank all of you enough for being here, because you're all interested in working. And I think that's wonderful to find a way to surround yourself with people who do want to be involved with that. And I will tell you, my 15 years as a police officer, I don't know if it gave me a jaded opinion of people who are not working, and who are able to, by the way. I don't hold it against people who have a legitimate reason why they cannot work. And I think it's where we get into gray areas, right? Or get into the mud, the weeds. What's a legitimate reason why you cannot work? But I saw plenty of people, my goodness, during my career that easily could be working, and they had a long list of excuses why they could not. And by the way, one of my pet peeves, and I've seen it so many times, both as a police officer and just out and about in the community is I see the world differently than other people who haven't walked in my shoes, and the same way you see the world differently than other people that haven't walked in yours. But I'll be out at a convenience store or at a restaurant or at a Walmart or whatever it may be, and I'll see a lady, a frail, thin lady who's probably in her early to mid-70s, and she's checking groceries at Walmart, or she's serving food at a restaurant, or she's selling cigarettes and gas at a convenience store or whatever. And I sit there and I look and I go, why are you doing this? Why are you working at this point? What happened? Now, I'm being very judgmental when I do this, and I will admit this. I realize that I am. Maybe this person loves their job. Maybe they just absolutely love it, or maybe they're looking at Ben Franklin's virtues and they're going, yeah, I'm 75, but so what? I could do something useful with my time. Yes, I know that happens in certain cases. And man, hats off to those folks. Hats off to those folks. But I will tell you this. I have seen too many times, way too many times, that these ladies, and I'm being specific to these ladies because there's something about being a mom that gives you the spirit to do this. I have seen these ladies who go out and they work one or two jobs well into their 70s, maybe even into their 80s, because they've got kids at home that won't work, and they're supporting them, and they don't see any way around it other than they've got to work to support these kids. And the kids are in their 40s and in their 50s. And I've seen it, and this is not me thinking this happens. This is me knowing this happens from being a police officer and going in and investigating something in one of these homes and finding out this information. Like going into a home and there's a guy sitting on the couch in his pajamas at 3 p.m. playing video games who barely can even look up and acknowledge the fact there's a police officer standing there. And when I interview everybody and I find out their work history and this and that, I find out, no, he did not just wake up because he worked all night on a graveyard shift. Oh, no. He doesn't have a job. But mom, who's 72, wasn't home last night because after she finished her job at, her shift at the restaurant yesterday at 3 p.m., she worked a 5-hour shift last night at Walmart. But you've got Junior sitting on the couch playing video games, expensive video games, and doesn't have a job, and with a long list of excuses of why he cannot work. And so I suppose after a 15-year career of meeting people like this and seeing this going on and going, well, why did this happen? What is going on? Where are the values? And where are the virtues? I suppose I chose to get out of that and not surround myself with those folks on a daily basis, but surround myself with people who do want to work. And that, I think, is the inspiration that kind of came over me the other day. Just so excited when I realized that, man, we are here promoting work. And, man, once you frame your perspective and go, I'm going to make work my passion, I'm going to make work the thing that I really, truly love, and I'm going to do my best with it, and I am going to honor whoever it is you want to honor, whether that's your parents, your family, your God, whatever that may be, with your work. What a great place to be in. Because we can't sit on a beach all day, every day. We can't just farm all day, every day anymore, most of us, especially and be financially secure. I don't think there's any way to do it without a large debt load that we have to service and we have to use. And so we've all got to work. We all have to do something. And what a great way to live if you take pride in that and you make that into a virtue. I think it's great. Very inspired to be by that. So this show, everybody, I'm not changing the title or anything like that, but this show is now not just about farming, but it's about people who want to hustle, people who want to work, people who are motivated, and people who are looking at all the noise around them, all the talk, all the news channels, all the politics, all the promises from politicians for free this or free that, all the people with all the excuses for why they can't work. They're looking at all that and they're just drowning it out. And they're saying, no, I'm forging my path forward. I'm ignoring all that other stuff. And I'm putting my head down and I'm finding a way to make it work. And I'm doing it in such a way that I can be proud of what I've done, and I'm going to make myself stand out. And I think it's awesome. And the more success you have doing that, the more people are going to look at you and say unfair advantage or luck or this or that. They're going to think you're some sort of a lucky overnight success, and they're not going to be able to see the fact that you recognized or noticed all this other noise out there and you just chose to ignore it, put your head down and work, and you've done all these years of hard work, or you've made wise, smart decisions to build a business while times were good, so when times get bad, you've still got somewhere to go to make a living. They're not going to see all that. They're going to be resentful. They're going to be envious. They're going to say it's luck. You must have inherited something. It's white privilege, whatever. I don't know. They're going to come up with some sort of excuse or reason why you didn't earn it. So, here's a bastion. Here's a safe place, to use a political term. Here's a safe place for those of you who want to work to come. You can find your people right here on this show. We understand hard work. We understand everything that goes into making it in farm country, and how innovative and how smart and how determined you have to be and how much work ethic you have to be able to make this happen. And I am just thrilled to be part of this larger or maybe smaller issue. I don't know what it is. Is farming larger, or is people who want to work larger? I think people who want to work is larger, because there are folks like us that are not in farm country and are not in agriculture, but they're finding a way to make it out there in those cities too. So really thrilled to be part of that. Very excited to have that realization, and very thankful to have all of you in this audience who want to work. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for this Tuesday edition. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.